Minister, I don't agree with this piece of legislation, and I would ask you to go back to the drawing board on this half-baked piece of work and try to get it right. You know, I suppose, the Whiddy Island disaster took place 42 years ago, and I suppose I'm, the unfortunate TD that happened to see what went on that night. I was 11 years of age, standing at the doorstep 20 miles away west of Schull, and see the ball of fire in the sky. A ball of fire in the sky that couldn't be described. Obviously, there was no mobile phones or very poor contact at times. There was visitor storehouse, and my father and the gentleman that was with him went as far north as they could to see where's that fire coming from. And no matter how far they travelled, it still was ahead of them. 42 years ago, when a massive explosion occurred on the French oil tanker, taking the lives of 51 people, Minister. Recently, we heard the radio documentary Fire in the Sky, which relived that night for quite a lot of people. It is well known now that no rescue took place because of the catastrophic safety failures, and the regulatory system in place in the run-up to the disaster was appalling. The Irish, French and British families concerned have had to live with this together with the fallout afterwards. No resolution. And throughout this horrendous ordeal for the families, over the past 42 years, the state has never apologised to these families for the appalling failures in administration of justice and the failures of implementing regulation. And we're back to that again tonight. And again, 43 years on, we're going to still make the same mistakes, Minister. But the only thing you might be able to do, Minister, seeing as you're not going to put the legislation out, is that you might talk to the Taoiseach and the Taoiseach, and you might consider apologising to the families of the Whiddy Island tragedy. Maybe you might meet with the French-Irish Association of Relatives and Friends of the Bettledges to help them in their goal to have their High Court change the victims' death certificates to unlawful deaths. And Michael Kingston has been mentioned several times here in the Dáil tonight, and it's no wonder. Not alone has he fought a huge battle in relation to the Whiddy Island disaster and to rectify the wrongs that were done there. He's fought bravely for other people too, on a voluntary capacity, and that has to be commended. And you know, I'll stand here and I'll apologise to the families if you're failing in your duties to do that as leaders here of this country, ministers, Taoiseach and Taoiseach. I will apologise, and maybe the biggest apology you need to do is to sit down with them, myself, and sit down and in a meaningful conversation, and maybe all of us could do the same thing. And I apologise to Michael and apologise to the families out there. And I had family that died that night as well in Whiddy Island, and a tragic story that can be told as the other 50 people that night. So, Minister, it's sad to think that 42 years later they'll still find no justice to me, looking at the legislation that's going through here tonight. And I'd plead with you to step back, if nothing else, for the respect of these people, and try and see, can we right the wrong here? Because I have no doubt that Michael Kingston, with his expert knowledge and in this field, would certainly help the government to make sure that this legislation is put, if it was going to go through at a later stage, would go through where proper investigation can take place, where proper legislation is there in place for this to happen. So, you know, I don't know. I don't think you're going to withdraw this piece of legislation, but I certainly would ask you to do so. But I'd also ask you to talk to the Taoiseach and to the Taoiseach. I've already brought it up here in the Dáil a few months back to issue an apology to these families. That's the least the state can do after that much time. And a lot of these people have waited for that apology and agonisingly have lost loved ones that night off of Bantry Bay, a disaster that will never be forgotten in the memories of the people of West Cork. Thank you.